There's a lot of you dealing with pretty bad air quality. In fact, reaching very unhealthy, which is the worst category. Chicago is one of them. That haze that you see and smell is wildfire smoke.
It's like what we dealt with in New York.
Widespread. Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio. I saw Cleveland's looking pretty bad. Indiana, Illinois. I mean, it's very widespread.
Air quality alerts all over the place out there. And of course, we're dealing with the storm threat out there as well. We could be looking at storms once again riding up over top of where all the heat is bubbling up. Watch for some big thunderstorms.
That's the sweet spot, the top side of these ridges, the northern edge. Couple days.
Yes, so we're tracking that. And of course, the tropics. There's two areas to watch today. One of them, Zombie Cindy. The other one, we need to talk about.
It's another. Yeah. Good news is North America, we're in pretty good shape. Everything should stay offshore.
Yes. All right. We'll get to all of that. Well, the fruits of Mother Nature's labor already been out there in Louisiana and New Orleans. Got to talk about what's going on for you, temperature and dew point wise. We've been dealing with significant heat and heat index, which has been going up thanks to the fact that our dew point is up there. All right, so 96 degrees for you today. The heat index, though, is going to be 110, thanks in part to our dew point, which is 75 degrees. That's the problem. The fact that we've got these high dew points in the mid to even upper 70s. That's what makes it feel so stifling outside and what doesn't allow your body to cool down at all with the kind of heat and humidity that we have. So let's talk temperatures and go through some scenarios here, including in New Orleans and what we're going to be dealing with. We are going to be watching for some concerns out there, not just in parts of Texas and the Mississippi Valley where we've had it expands. So here's New Orleans. The heat index going to be up there at dangerous levels, up above 105 for hours, starting at about lunchtime and continuing all the way until 7 o'clock tonight. Here, it's this long amount of time where you don't get a break, which is a big part of the problem with these heat waves as well. New Orleans, our dew points don't drop through that entire stretch, and that's pretty common. You typically don't see a lot of changes in your dew points. Yeah, they might come down a few degrees with the mixing of the air that happens throughout the day, but usually without a front that comes through, you're not going to feel a change in those dew points. Jackson, Mississippi, we're going up to 100 degrees starting tomorrow, continuing on Friday. Saturday we'll see because we're awful close. Our average first 100-degree day is July 11th. Now, look, we get 100-degree days in Jackson. That's not surprising to us. But to get a couple of days with dew points that are going to be up like this, that makes it so much worse and drives up that heat index. You see how throughout the day, you're not going to get lowering of dew point. At night, the temperatures do drop a little bit, and that's helpful. But the dew points don't change a whole lot. If anything, they might go up 1 or 2 degrees. That's driving our feels like or heat index up there, up above 110 for hours here in Jackson. And Little Rock, 100 degrees. We're going that today, tomorrow, also on Friday, maybe on Saturday, we're going 99 degrees. Look, we get to 100 in Little Rock here every summer, maybe every other. I mean, that usually happens. But to have this kind of humidity that we're dealing with on top of that makes it tough, and that feels like it's going to be up there at dangerous levels for hours through the afternoon. Greg, we're looking at the numbers. The scale goes 200 starts at very unhealthy category. We're above that. That's the top worst category. So here's a look at what's causing that, the wildfire season, which has gotten a very early start and has gotten an exceptional start here with well above average. This total acreage is more than they've had in some of their biggest season. So it's already their biggest season, and we're not even technically in the season, which is quite mind-blowing, right? So it's all that smoke from those wildfires, which is getting caught up in some of our weather patterns. This one right now is affecting so many states, from Michigan through Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. I was checking Carmel and Indianapolis. Your cameras are very smoggy this morning, and some of that is going to get into western Pennsylvania and western New York as well. Saw some very unhealthy, or just unhealthy, not very unhealthy, in places like Buffalo. Now, Chicago. So here's how our past air quality has been over the past several hours. We had a time where yesterday we were unhealthy, which was bad, and now we're in that very unhealthy. We should be down here with an air quality of 0 to 50. We're up above that at over 200, maybe close to 250. That's a problem, right? When it comes to outdoor anything, breathing is tough. It's difficult. People with any kind of heart or even, of course, lung disease will have issues. Now, Milwaukee, same deal. Look at where we're at, up over 250 here over the past several hours here. Kind of situation where you want to avoid being outside. If you're driving, make sure that car is on recirculate. You don't want that outside air to get in. And of course, the alerts are up across the area for that risk of air quality. Alex.
Well, tornado here with the peaches in Georgia.
At least in one
we're going to think what fruit I would just be at a loss. Strawberries, maybe?
Strawberries. Our senior producer, Tori, said, okay, apples is off the table
Well, that's
for you.
obvious for you.
Right, for me. And I thought maybe bananas.
Oh, that might be a big one because a lot of people do the banana every day, right?
Yeah.
1 million pounds of peaches each year, an $85 million injection into the state's economy. But not this year. 90% of the crop was lost.
90%.
That's a lot.
Farmers blame a warm winter and a late freeze. CBS News correspondent Mark Strassman takes a look. It's really interesting in just the amount of research they're doing, but also understanding how long it takes to come up with a variety that can handle the weather. Well, if you do find peaches at your grocery store, you're going to want to make sure they last, right?
Yeah, we asked our friend and food blogger Jerry James Stone for some tips on your peaches. But you do see that rain is going to add up in a few spots there across New England. Could even lead to some flash flooding in a few spots.
Right, just simply because of how much we've had already. It's been kind of a tough week here with this off and on, again, kind of rain situation out there. We have some bigger storms that are possible, too, as we look back to the middle part of the country. So let's go over to Dr. Egg Postel for more because it's all related. We'll start with the scorching car scale, and it is going to be high. Look at the actual temperature today in Oklahoma City, 104. Look how hot the car gets.
I mean, it's already hot, just normal, but then the car after 10 minutes in the sun, 123, and then after a half an hour, it's approaching 140 degrees out there. These are dangerous, dangerous levels of heat.
Even in Chicago, only going to be 85, but your car still gets dangerously hot. In 30 minutes, 119 degrees. The heat advisories have continued to expand. Now, excessive heat watches have turned into warnings, like in Nashville and Birmingham and Memphis.
Yeah, well, last week it was mostly confined to Texas, but you see how that is really taken over from the Southwest as well, Midwest, Southeast getting involved too, and those morning temperatures staying warm.
Yeah, okay, so overnight lows not cooling down is all part of the story of a heat wave. Houston, New Orleans, Corpus Christi, we haven't dropped below the 80s here. That's a problem. If you don't have good air conditioning, you're just not able to cool things down.
Absolutely. Look at the dew points, of course, looking at the moisture in the atmosphere. The higher these values get, the more just sticky it feels. Mid-70s for you there in a spot like Oklahoma City with a high temperature of 104. Yeah, it's going to feel even hotter than that.
This is the kind of forecast where you're double checking, like, is this the high or is this the heat index here? Because they're both kind of ridiculous. It's this big dome of heat that's spreading. Look at the highs as we expand the heat. Jackson, Montgomery, Atlanta, Nashville, 101 as you kick off your weekend here on Friday here. And many of these will be record-breaking temperatures.
August, but when it comes to West Texas, it's actually late June.
Yeah, interesting, right? Well, they've certainly been feeling it this month here, so we shouldn't be surprised how hot it is. We've had long stretches of triple-degree days, but this year is even worse than usual, and that's because of the higher dew points.
And that makes all the difference in the world.
Yes.
Sometimes those higher dew points are allowed.
A couple other factors at play, too, which we're going to talk about here. But first, we have to break down just how ridiculously hot it's been.
What's been this cases.
Here is a big ridge.
Yep.
It's a big dome of the dew points and how that makes a big difference. The fact that our dew points are so high, you can relate it back to the fact that we actually made improvement in the drought. You want to make improvements, right? Why is this a bad thing?
There's a consequence for everything that happens, right? And we've certainly seen that. So, we started out earlier in the year. There was a lot of drought situation there across Texas. But as we've marched our way through the month,
it's going to feel like 112 in Montgomery this weekend.
It's just the start of July almost. We still have a while to go.
I just got to clarify the record here that I was.
It was a wolf. If it was a Sasquatch, we would have known.
It would have been me,
right?
Okay.
But the wolf wasn't.
All this heat. Your mark with the Q on the end, which is
I get
kind
it.
of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, lots of ways to make your mark. Not only do we have the smoke right now, we might have rain later today. So
not the best of days today.
I'm just helping you plan ahead.
Yes,
You gotta,
eventually things will look much better. All right, good stuff. Going from the UP of Michigan, and hot conditions are expected to stick around out there. Here's what we've got for today: another 100+ degree day, and that sun. I mean, full sunshine that we're having to deal with here. You see what we've got over the next few days. We do see a cool down by the time we work through the weekend, down into the mid and lower 90s, but overall staying hot.
It'll be interesting to see if that really does feel good. I mean, that's a good 10-degree drop.
Yes, certainly much better than where we are now.
So I think it'll be very noticeable. Our question of
there was a new fruit to be introduced to.
Yeah.
All right,
There
thanks
you
for
go.
that one.
Thank you for that. Glad you're here as we can help you get through the mid-morning hours.
That's right. The Weather Channel going to help you plan out for the big events that are ahead here for the rest of this week. And, of course, heading into next week with the big July 4th, which is right around the corner.
Less than a week.
And it's going to be accompanied by fireworks, Mother Nature style, heat and thunderstorms as well for the next few days.
Yes, Chicago, you'll probably have those in addition to what we're dealing with right now, which is the smoke. That is wildfire smoke from Canada, getting it all across the Midwest.
It's like what we saw in New York a few weeks ago. The same the same aspects of the atmosphere are in place. We got the smoke from Canada moving into the U.S.
It's really been thick. I mean, I saw the shot that you tweeted out, Jen, in Cleveland. You couldn't even see.
You couldn't see anything.
You could see a little bit of the water, but outside of that, it was like
it's amazing.
Unreal.
Someone responded and said they couldn't see anything. I was like, exactly. Exactly. It's pretty bad out there. We also have some storms, too. And even in Chicago, we may get some thunderstorms. Those storms do bring with them all the threats, and we'll see that continuing today into tomorrow, right around that big ridge of heat.
And that will help with the air quality. If we can get some of the rain through that sort of dusty air or smoky air, it should clean it out just at least a little bit. That's good news.
Yeah.
And how about the tropics?
The tropics.
Yeah.
First storm in the Pacific for the season.
It's late. Jen, you were talking.
But very close to the top latest. Yeah.
That's a lot of words for it's been a late start to the season.
I think you need an apple or something to kind of that's in place of caffeine. It's a good way to jumpstart your day.
An apple.
An apple.
All right.
Well, the fruits of Mother Nature's labor are coming. Worse. It's that and the fact that it's coming in with a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, a lot of humidity. You know the old saying, it's not the heat, it's humidity. It's true. Look at New Orleans. So our temperature, 96 degrees. Okay, that's hot. But when you factor in the dew point of 75 degrees, the feels like is going to be 110. And that's the problem. The fact that we've got these high dew points everywhere, mid to upper 70s. Let's look at some other spots, but actually look at New Orleans to see just how long we'll be dealing with this high heat index too, because it's not just like it's an hour. It lasts for hours throughout the day when you get up to those dangerous levels of high heat disease. We see that here starting at about lunchtime and then continuing right through the evening hours, 7 o'clock. We're still at a feels like of 107. The thing about the dew points is they don't really change that much. They might lower a little bit in the afternoon when you get some mixing, and we kind of see that happening about 4 o'clock. From 78 to 76. So you don't get a lot of change in the moisture in the air unless you have a front coming through. So because of that, even overnight here, it's going to be a factor that we have so much humidity in the atmosphere. Jackson, Mississippi, 100 degrees Thursday and Friday. Our average first 100 is July 11th, so we're just a smidge early. Not surprising that we're reaching 100. That happens here in Jackson every summer. But what's tough about this particular stretch is just how much humidity we have in the atmosphere, just how high these dew points are. Look at an example starting tomorrow and through Friday and how the dew points are up in the upper 70s, and you really don't get a break from that all the way through that entire stretch. That's a problem that drives up that heat index. And for Jackson, it's going to feel like 110 plus for hours, starting at about lunchtime all the way through at least dinner hour, maybe a little beyond here. Feels like of 110 plus. That makes it very difficult to do doing anything outside. Little Rock, Arkansas, we get 100-degree days as well. Back in 1980, we had 15 in a row. So the fact that we're 100 for 3 days in a row, maybe 4, is not that surprising. It's just that when you factor it in with those high heat indices and the high dew points, it feels like 110 for a long period of time, and that's a challenge. Now, also a problem, just along the north of this heat dome, there will be storms, Greg. Much of Minnesota and Wisconsin and down into Illinois, Indiana. And that's happening because we have so many fires ongoing in Canada, 319 burning more than 18 million acres, which is a record season. And officially, the season isn't really begun. You think about when they typically get into their fire season, it's usually July, but yet we've already set a record acreage across the country. Now, as we look at that smoke coming in, it's affecting us in a very big way today, expanding too. Cleveland, been checking your observations here, some very low visibility because of the smoke across spots in Michigan, Grand Rapids. I was looking at you. You've got the smoke, Indianapolis, another spot, Carmel, Indiana, Chicago. We've been showing you that picture there with the low visibility because of the smoke. And yesterday we were up in this unhealthy category, right? That's right there. Very unhealthy is now where we have been for the last 10 to 12 hours. And you think about where we should be, 0 to 50 on the air quality index. We're sitting up at about 200 or even 250. So it's significant. Milwaukee, same story. Look at where we've been. It's been for the last 12 to even 14 hours that we've been sitting at this very unhealthy air. And concerns, of course, that it's, until we get the weather pattern changed, until we get the winds to change direction, we're going to be dealing with this. It's another stuck pattern. So things are slow to move out. Detroit, Saginaw, Michigan, you're under air quality alerts for today, expecting unhealthy. And then some of that moving into Pennsylvania, too. So we've got some unhealthy concerns. Erie, Pennsylvania, Clarion, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, looking at you, and even over towards Philadelphia, we will have some impacts. So we'll see some of that smoke moving in. This is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You see how it kind of pivots all the way back through the Northeast. So, yes, New York City and New Haven and Boston all have a chance of getting into more of that smoke as we get into the weekend. Here's your heads up. And just make sure, outdoor plants might need to be moved in, not because of rain, but because of smoke. That's some discussion about the berries. Are they replaceable? You think, like, if you didn't have blueberries, would you have blackberries?
No. They're
very similar.
No, I'm going to say no on that one. But you let us know how you feel. Head to Twitter, send us your comments, and we'd love to hear from you. Weekend, so just in time for that. Well, air travel also supposed to set some new records this holiday weekend, and delays at the airport, they've been picking up.
Yes, just yesterday, about 6,500 flights were delayed and nearly 2,000 were canceled on the East Coast alone. CBS senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve has more from Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. In the Northeast, saw LaGuardia and Newark together running about 150 cancellations for today. And I mean, the weather's fine right now, but we may get some storms up here.
It's certainly a real possibility. Again, everything looks good right now, but that's an area that we'll be certainly watching. Boston, the hubs around, even around New York City, could be dealing with some issues. Also in the upper Midwest, watch for some stormy times there. Chicago, Midway, O'Hare, up towards Minneapolis, also a few spots that could see some delays.
I think the problem is everything was full to begin with. So if your flight is canceled, there's just no seats anyway, regardless of the weather, you know.
That is a problem. Now, if you're avoiding the airports and just saying, hey, I'll just take the roads, well, just know that there's going to be the opportunity for some scattered showers as well as a few storms here. Some heavy downpours here and there for us along parts of 95, the 91 corridor as well. So just be on the lookout for that. Maybe even some fog in a few spots, too.
Now, we have thunderstorms. They may be strong or severe here into parts of the upper Midwest, watching into Minnesota, Wisconsin. Those same zones dealing with some smoke today, but thunderstorms will come in here, and there could be severe there as well as back into Nebraska.
All right, how about a bit farther to the south? Well, looking along a good chunk of the Gulf Coast, these areas just should stay on the dry side, but make sure the AC is working in the car because you will need it working across the south with temperatures that'll be pretty hot. This is Saturday's forecast. 96 in Nashville, Atlanta approaching 100 degrees.
Oh boy, here we've got the heat, we've got the thunderstorms. We're going to be watching for a stormy forecast too on Saturday all throughout parts of the Ohio Valley, the Kentucky Valley, and hot too. I mean, even up to Michigan, we're going to find temps warming up to the 80s. Not as hot as to the south, but just warming up.
How about in the western half of the country? Well, here we are, mostly, I'd say, on the quiet side of things now, heating up in a few spots. You see Medford there, and we're in 99 expected for your day on Saturday. Vegas, 108 expected. Vegas is one of the spots that hasn't seen the triple digits.
They just had a record stretch of days not reaching 100.
Yeah.
You're going this weekend. Here you go. You're part of breaking that. The most, maybe 1 to 2 inches, most less than that.
Well, welcome back here into America's Morning Headquarters. Rolling through the week, midweek here for us, and lots to track, including, well, the risk for more of these thunderstorms to fire up. We've been talking about the big heat dome that's set up and it's expanding. Well, on the top of that, storms are expanding too.
Exactly here. They have access to everything they need, the ingredients in terms of the strong winds, the instability that comes along with some of those big temperatures that we're talking about. So let's go over to Dr. Greg Postel for more. The heat, oh boy, it's tough, and especially tough inside our vehicles, seeing how quickly they heat up. Oklahoma City, 104, outside, inside your car, 123 in just 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, just dangerous heat by half an hour. It's up to almost 140, and you can see other spots that will also be dealing with those temperatures heating up in those vehicles. So driving that point home, to make sure you're checking that back seat. Don't leave the kids, the pets in vehicles. It just becomes too dangerous.
The heat advisories have been expanding. The heat warnings, excessive heat warnings have as well. Places like Birmingham and Nashville, which had an excessive heat watch yesterday, are now under a warning.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, the expansion has taken place. Notice this goes through Friday, so a few more days of having to deal with this here, with this heat really building. Here's what we got in terms of temperatures right now. I mean, already pretty warm out there with the late 80s. How about 85 in Lubbock? Same for you down in Corpus Christi, Brownsville. 88 degrees for you at this
Boy,
hour.
so is Tallahassee, and both of those spots have some higher dew points, making it feel even more uncomfortable out there. So it feels like 98 in Tallahassee and 96 in Brownsville.
No, these are the temps
Oh, these are the
expected.
highs.
We've talked about this.
I got to turn all the way around.
Yeah, we look at these numbers, you think, oh, this has to be the heat index. No, this is the actual temperatures. They are just ridiculous values.
But I bet you it feels like it's right about that right now.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
At peak heating today, it's going to be worse.
110 in New Orleans, the same around Jackson. How about there in Little Rock, feeling like 112 for your afternoon?
All right, this will continue into the weekend here, so stay tuned for that forecast. It does. But we want to talk about this because, yes, most spots, it's July and August that are your hottest days of the year. But for West Texas and New Mexico and Arizona, this is actually the time that you see your hottest days typically. So it shouldn't be that surprising how hot it is.
Not at all. But it's a different heat this time around. Something about this year has made it a little different.
Not a dry heat is what I'm hearing.
That is true here. It's just been downright hot, though, too, even with or without the dew points.
Right.
Let's look at
Texas is on the edge.
And that big dome of heat extends over
These already hot temperatures, and we're going to see the incredible heat indices.
Yeah.
It's like the double whammy. You got
really
the moisture
is.
hanging around there from the recent rains, then plus the moisture from the Gulf.
Yep.
Yeah, this
It
is
is
just
a
a
double
recipe.
whammy.
It's a bit of a cool down, and we'll put the cool down in quotes because it's not going to be chilly, but at least it'll be some relief from some of the really hot temperatures we're seeing now.
I mean, we'll lose 10 degrees, which I think will make a big difference. Dallas, 105 today on the Fort Worth side of town, 103 in Dallas. Whew.
Yeah, that's hot times.
Yeah.
Take it easy, take it slow in these areas.
All right, there's a look at that change. So back to the mid-90s.
Yes, at least back to kind of
More
average.
like it. Yeah, that's summer
Yeah.
in Texas. All right, we want to be inside, so save those activities for a better day. Not only do we have the smoke, we also have some rain coming in here, and temperature's going to be in the 70s.
Yeah, so all around smoke, gray skies and showers around.
Yeah.
May not be the best day. At
Good
least
options
today.
for other days.
Yes, something to look forward to. All right, well, let's revisit our question.
Actually, because it's not just here. It's been a very hot June. The first 11 days in June were like the hottest in the globe on record.
Parts of Europe and other areas in North America, including Mexico, have been exceptionally hot, record warm in recent weeks, no doubt.
Yeah. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for choosing American Morning Headquarters to get you through the mid-morning hours.
That's right, the Weather Channel here. We're going to help you plan out the big events. And, of course, we got a big event that's happening next week, right around the corner, that July 4th.
Yeah, that holiday. I know it's a long weekend for many of you. A lot of you are thinking of doing some traveling, looking out the window in the Midwest, wondering what is going on. This is Chicago. Just one example. It is really thick smoke out there in a lot of spots.
Air quality is no good, and it reminds me of what happened from the smoky air.
You need to.
Yeah.
Cleveland's just like this. Toledo, I just saw terrible air quality.
Yeah, it really is pretty widespread out there. So take it easy. Avoiding the outdoors is going to be key here for us for our day. Then, of course, we got to deal with some storms. More of those. We've been talking about the heat. Well, on the northern extent of all that heat, that bubble, the storm train gets going.
Yeah.
That's where they like it, right on the edge of those heat waves, and we're going to have more of that.
Then the tropics, we'll take a look. Now, yesterday we were talking about zombie Cindy. That may not be a problem anymore, but there's something nearby that we got to keep an eye on. And the Eastern Pacific finally came to life.
Came to life late, as you mentioned, for the last couple of days. This is one of the latest.
Yeah. All right. Looking at all of that, plus the fruits of Mother Nature's labor coming.
Temperatures, but again, it's that humidity which just makes it that worse.
Yeah, you know how they say it's not the heat, it's the humidity. It's so true. It's all about the dew point, which that's what we're talking about when we say it's not the heat, it's the humidity. It's the dew point, actually. It doesn't have the same ring to it, but it's not the heat, it's the dew point. So temperatures, the heat, going to 96 in New Orleans. That's hot. It's worse when you factor in the dew point that is going to be in the mid-70s. That would feel like 110. And that's the problem, how it feels when you're outside and there's so much moisture in the atmosphere with these high dew points that when you sweat, you just don't really cool off. That evaporational cooling that happens from sweat that's supposed to cool your body down, it's not that effective. So let's look at how long these kind of higher heat indices last here, because that's a part of the story too. Dew points don't change that much, and I'll show you that. But because of that, unless you have an air mass change, like a front comes through or something, you're not going to change your dew point. Your temperatures are going to go up, so that heat index is going to remain up for quite a long time here, for hours, lunchtime to after dinner time. This is New Orleans as an example. Let's look at the dew points. So they never really go down. You get a little bit of mixing in the afternoon, and that might allow your dew point drop maybe a degree or two. But overall, it's not changing throughout the day. And so that's why you have such a tough time with that humidity, so to speak, here in the heat index. That's a problem. Jackson, Mississippi, we're going to 100 in your forecast Thursday. Thursday, the first 100 of the year. The average one is July 11th, so we're a little early, but not too much. We hit 100 here. That's not surprising. What's tough is when we have to deal with dew points like this, and we hit 100 degrees. Dew points are going to be in the mid to upper 70s. That's going to make that heat index up above 110 for hours through the afternoon. Remember, our dew points aren't really changing. Our temperature is going up, and even as the temperature starts dropping into the evening, the dew point not changing is going to keep it up at dangerous levels. Little Rock, Arkansas, we also hit 100 degrees most summers, so this isn't surprising. We are going to have at least a 3-day stretch of it. Tough to take, I know, but when you factor in those dew points, the heat index makes it feel like 110 for hours through the afternoon, and that's the problem, that you just don't get a break from the dangerous heat. There will be storms out there, thunderstorms to break the heat, but most of them will be on top of this bubble of heat. Smoke from wildfires, fires that have been burning across Canada. 319 right now. The number of fires above average, the acreage burned significantly above average. This is more than our biggest wildfire season on record already, and we're not even at typically our season here in Canada. So it's of course very concerning here, really looking at some pretty tough air quality concerns all the way through the Midwest, all the way down through Kentucky. A viewer just sent me a picture, and I just shared it on Twitter, all the way down the I-65 Welcome Center where Kentucky meets Tennessee. And it's smoky, and you can see it all the way down there. The thickest of the smoke, though, is farther north and in places like Chicago. Now we're running more than 12 hours up in the purple category. That's up with air quality numbers up to 250 and maybe even a little smidge above that. We should be here 0 to 50. That's where you want to hang. Maybe in the summertime it's a little bit higher than that, but 250 is extreme when you look at that air quality index. And that's where we've been in Milwaukee as well, running 24 hours now with very unhealthy air like that. Detroit, you are topping the list in the worst air quality of the U.S. at the moment. There's a ranking of the top air quality around the world, the worst that is, and it's Detroit, it's Chicago, it's Minneapolis here, looking at it's 3 out of the top 5 worst places with air quality in the world right now. Now, we're concerned today, too, that some of this is getting into the Northeast, western Pennsylvania, western New York. It'll spread perhaps Scranton and Philadelphia. This is actually a concern that we're watching into the next several days. The smoke is going to move, and we'll get this back into the Northeast. New York City, yes, yet again, look at your forecast Thursday. This is Friday into Saturday. You can see how some of that extends up here through parts of New England as well. I think there'll even be signs of it, maybe at higher levels all the way down through the Delmarva and down here into parts of the mid-Atlantic. But again, the Northeast, there could be air quality concerns with breathing. Heads up, you might have to move your outdoor plans in because of not necessarily rain, but maybe smoke.
Yeah, that is orange juice.
Yes.
And I could not live without my orange juice.
That's your thing every day. Yeah. No coffee for Alex. He drinks orange juice. The other one, like avocado.
Yeah, although I think there's a little bit more consensus on tomatoes being a fruit. I think.
I would be sad if they went away, too.
Keep sending the comments in. We have 1 million pounds of peaches each year, an $85 million injection into the state's economy. But not this year. 90% of the crop was lost.
90%.
That's a lot.
Farmers blame a warm winter and a late freeze. CBS News correspondent Mark Strassman takes a look. It's really interesting in just the amount of research they're doing, but also understanding how long it takes to come up with a variety that can handle the weather. Well, if you do find peaches at your grocery store, you're going to want to make sure they last, right? Yeah, we asked our friend and food blogger Jerry James Stone for some tips when it comes to storing your peaches this summer. Yep, but at least through tomorrow, rain chances New England, maybe 1 to 2 inches. You're especially watching in southern Maine for that chance of some higher rain. Well, welcome back here to America's Morning Headquarters. Rolling on here as we head on through this mid part of the week, where we are following, of course, the summertime heat, but also the summertime storms that are flaring up around all that heat. They are connected. They're not in the same spot necessarily, but they're connected. One has access to the other. So let's go over to Dr. Greg Postel. Heat wave. We'll start with the scorching car scale. Outside temperatures 104 in Oklahoma City. In your car, 138 degrees in just 30 minutes. Yeah, it happens really fast. And even areas where it maybe not be so hot outside, like Chicago, 85 for today's high. But after a half an hour, it's up to 119. So we're driving home this point of making sure you're checking that back seat. Kids, and also don't forget the pets. We have heat warnings. That's the bright pink. And some places like Birmingham and in Nashville, yesterday you were under watch. It's now a warning. So we're getting closer to that extreme heat coming in. And we've really watched it go from really a primarily kind of Texas where it's been really, really hot.
But you can see more areas will be involved as we head on through this week.
Even over to Florida, we've got some of those heat advisories. Right now, Tampa's sitting 87. This is not even lunchtime yet. We're close, I know, but it's already in the 90s, New Orleans and Tallahassee.
Yeah, these are pretty warm numbers here, and this is what we're expecting in terms of highs for the day. 97 New Orleans, 97 in Jackson, so not reaching the triple digits for the actual highs, but when you factor in the humidity, it'll feel like it.
Oh, yeah, plus that. Dallas and Jackson close to 110, Little Rock 112, it's going to feel like today. This big dome that we've been watching of heat expands and actually shifts a little bit more to the east, and so we're going to see those high numbers going up. This is I got to double check it, the temperature forecast, 101 in Nashville and 100 in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's hot times out there for us, so we could be looking at some records. That is a big, real risk and potential here for a number of cities. This is just on Friday. August, but for West Texas, it's actually late June.
Yes, and they've been feeling it for sure this month here with long stretches of triple-digit degree days. But, I mean, this year is actually worse than usual, and that's because of the higher dew points.
It makes a difference, right? It's a different. People always talk about, the desert heat is much different than the southeast heat.
Yes.
It
is. Yes.
Facts.
It is. So the thing is, it is hot this time of year in West Texas. We expect it. It's typically our hottest days of the year there and in New Mexico and Arizona.
April and May. Well, that had an effect.
Yeah.
And that is moistening the ground and allowing it to breathe back into the atmosphere and bring those higher dew points.
Yeah, so that's why you may be stepping outside and say, yes, it's supposed to be hot, but wait a minute, this is just a little bit unusual.
It's the dew points. It's the feels like that's really getting
some of this really dangerous heat.
Yeah, getting right into the weekend.
All right.
Happy summer.
All right. Well, summer, it is a great time to get into the out there.